So, Metamorphosis is the first TNG giant novel in the Pocket Book series. See, it says right there. The first giant novel. Of course, we talked about Vendetta last season, which was it the second giant novel? It was a later giant novel, but this is the first giant novel. I know, we're going out of order. I'm sorry. Anyways, in Metamorphosis, Data gets his fondest wish. Was it really his fondest wish? His fondest wish to be human. How? Is it Q?
Data, I've decided to give you something very, very special.
If your intention is to make me human, Q...
No. I would never curse you by making you human.
I guess not. So the only way left is magic. Metamorphosis finds the Enterprise traveling pretty close to the neutral zone to investigate some weird space anomalies being reported in the space lanes. It turns out they're being caused by the planet Elysia, which is uninhabitable, except for the pockets of it that aren't. And there's very low-tech villages of humanoids living there. The Federation had made contact a while back, but the gods of Elysia told the people not to talk to them. So no one had been back since. Now the Enterprise sends an away team to find the cause of the space anomaly things, and the people are friendly, and the local gods seem okay with the crew talking to them, but they don't have the technology to affect local space and aren't interested in divulging the secrets of their gods. So it's clear the mountain in the geographic center of the villages is the source of the anomalies, and probably the home of the Elysian gods. So they check it out. The rest of the away team beams out because the plot requires it, but Data stays and ends up meeting a woman named Thelia, who has journeyed to the mountain to begin her capital Q quest. Data joins her, hoping to learn more about the people and the gods, and maybe get some answers. On their parallel quests together, they face a variety of dangers and visions, all the while being obviously manipulated by the Elysian gods. During his quest, Data gets torn up by giant birds, burned and submerged, and by the end, he's in rough shape. But they both complete their quests in the end, and both Thelia and Data get their wish. Kind of. While Data's current wish was to know and understand what the deal was with the Elysian gods, they sensed a greater wish and made him human. So Data returns to the Enterprise to initial suspicion. Obviously. Who's this guy? Then scientific interest. Newly human Data spends much of his first few days acclimating to his new life and requalifying himself for his duties. The ship moves on to its next mission. The typically isolationist Samdians have called for help. They're being massacred by a people called the Connor. Nobody's heard of the Connor, so there's an added mystery there. And android or not, Data loves a mystery. If you're enjoying this video, why not buy my book? Flight of the Pangolin is the story of an intrepid group of heroes who decide to exit the solar system over the objections of an isolationist faction. There's actually a lot more going on than that. There's space pirates, a giant spider for no reason, all kinds of other things. Buy it now online wherever you buy books or at our website, www.thepangolinrepublic.com. You can also get fun t-shirts and random other stuff if you want. You've probably heard of Clark's Law. No, not that Clark's Law. No, thank you. Clark's Law states that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. The Elysian gods are so much this that Clark's Law is even paraphrased in the book multiple times. It's very much in the vein of a TOS episode, which isn't quite the TNG vibe, but I think it would be more or less fitting in with Season 2 TNG, which was where the book is set. See, you can tell by the uniforms any later in the series and it might have felt out of place. The main problem I had with this premise going in is that if Data was ever going to be turned human, it should have been in an actual episode. Like, this is too important a thing to leave to a book and never talk about it again. How do you make such a monumental change to the character and no one ever is going to talk about it again? It's not going to come back in an episode. Oh, Data, remember when you were human? It's a little weird. But imagine my surprise as Jean Laura manages to thread this needle in a way that I found satisfying from a narrative and character standpoint without it seeming like a cop-out. So, full marks for that. The Samdi and Connor conflict takes up much of the second two-thirds of the book, and it gets more interesting as it progresses. There's a pretty good plot twist that I'm not going to spoil here, but I really liked it. It's a very typical TNG storyline that I don't think would stand on its own as a book, but it fits into this story very nicely as a B plot that eventually becomes the A plot. It's not bad. So if you're like me, you've done your homework and read the earlier TNG book Survivors, also by Jean Laura. Oh, there we go. It's not at all required reading for this, but the characters Daryl Aiden, the Silver Paladin, and his team are background characters here. So if you haven't read Survivors, you'd be wondering, who are these people? Why are they talking to Data like they're friends with him? That's why, because of the events of Survivors. They don't do much beyond add color and contribute some non-Starfleet opinions at important moments. You could lose them from the book entirely without an issue. In most instances, a crew member could take the character's place. But I actually liked having them there. It was fine. Although I was a bit bummed, because the character Jevsithian Jermingier, the Grokarian, from Survivors, one of the Silver Paladins team, was not mentioned. He was an underused character from Survivors that I really liked, but he did not make an appearance here. Very sad. I want to see more Grokarians in my Star Trek. So what's the bottom line? Jean Laura did a great job replicating the voices of our familiar Enterprise crew. The first half of the book is very fantasy-oriented, so if that doesn't sound like your jam, you might want to give this one a pass. But the second and third halves are more standard TNG. I'm actually not big on fantasy at all, which is why we mainly look at sci-fi books on this channel, but I really didn't mind the fantasy elements of this story. Overall, I really enjoyed the book. It was definitely worth the read, especially if you like a good Data story. So that's all I got. We'll see you next time.